Good morning. Welcome back. Another wonderful Sunday. I'm a little late today. Gee whiz, look at that. 5:30. Must have slept in. Actually, I didn't have things prepared well. I was out traveling till yesterday. Didn't get until later on Saturday, so kind of took away. And I think my wife wanted me to do something with her last night. I guess you have to do that when you're gone. That's okay. That's a good thing to do. Hey, actually, I didn't think I was going to have a lot to show this week. I mean, I got a lot of stuff to listen to, but I just haven't been around. But I do have a bunch. So let's start first off. What's playing in the background? Nick Drake. And this is kind of basically what's called an introduction, Way to Blue, but kind of like the greatest hits of Nick Drake. And we'll get into that in just a minute on why I play that. I was down in the Cincinnati area this week, and kind of interesting. I walked by a record store and I didn't go in. Now, for those who follow me on Facebook, you know that. So I walked by, didn't go in. Probably saved myself a couple $100, and it was kind of my favorite place. It's called that, the Plaid Room. This is in Loveland, Colorado. It's a suburb of Cincinnati, and it is an incredibly cool record store. I mean, my goodness, these guys have taken money. But I thought, you know what? I need to save some money. I'm not going to do it. And I did it. I don't think I've ever done that before. Well, the next night, I'm still in the Cincinnati area. I'm across the river in a town called Florence, and they have all these nice little towns along the river. I thought, I'm going to go down there to eat. And then I hit a record store, and I went down there. Well, the first record store I went to, they're actually closing. I mean, he's going out of business, sale, almost done. The guy across the street, the new record store that opened 1 year ago, had bought all his records. This guy had been open over 50 years. That guy's been open 1 year. He had all his records. By default, a couple neat posters, and I'll show those at another date. So I went across the street. I went to Jet Age Records. This guy collects poster memorabilia. He collects rock t-shirts, so it was pretty neat. But I walk in, and I look, and on the wall, I see this. Nick Drake, and this is Fruit Tree, the complete recorded sessions. This is 1979 original European pressing. And it looks like the vinyl had never been played. Now, for those of you, a lot of you know Nick Drake. I know some people are new getting into this music. Nick Drake really was a tortured soul of music. A genius, made some of the most beautiful music out there. Had a lovely guitar, this wonderful voice, but he was so introverted. It was painful to talk to people. So he would make this music, and then he would have to go on a stage to play it. And it was the worst thing in the world. I think this guy could have just been happy sitting in a room playing the music to himself, some recording and sending him out. But the demands of being a recording artist, of selling your stuff, demanded him to go out. He made like 3 great albums. I mean, they're classics, especially of the folk. But he eventually did suicide. He couldn't take it. But so it came with this book. And, you know, books are hard to open. Here we go. It kind of goes through a little bit about Nick Drake. A lot of his albums. And then it goes into all the different lyrics of Nick Drake. Discography, there you go, 3 albums. I have everything there is in CD. I mean, they actually had original albums there too. So then we had here's the complete works. 1, is that not beautiful? Nice picture of Nick Drake. What's on the back? This is really heavy cardstock. Then we had the second one. It's gorgeous. And the third album. That. This is really neat. I learned about Nick Drake. It wasn't like, you know, I'm this rock scholar. Hey, I knew about him. I learned about Nick Drake through a Volkswagen commercial. Yeah, there you go. Great TV, man. TV helps us learn about music. It was Volkswagen, I believe it was probably in the 90s, early aughts. I mean, these guys were great at finding songs. And so they had this beautiful commercial where they played Nick Drake's Pink Moon. Pink, 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 pink moon. And you know, it's just this Volkswagen car driving in the night, and the skylight opens up, and they're looking out, and they're playing Nick Drake's Pink Moon. I thought, what a beautiful song! What is that? And I found out, you know, looked it up. It was Pink Moon, and I became an instant Nick Drake fan, instant. And so I just began buying his stuff up. So I was really, really excited about that. The other box set I want to show is The Crane's Wife. Now, I was in Omaha last week. I went to Homer's Records, and there it was. It was on clearance, and here is Kat. Hi, guy. So this came out in 2006, the original album, and it was one of my all-time favorite albums. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I played it over and over and over, and I'd always want the box set, but I just never bought it. You know, it wasn't the cheapest thing in the world, but here it was. And so I thought, hey, let's get this thing. So what we got in here, it's a lot of outtakes that they did. Comes again, nice book. Talks a little bit about it. No, little pictures. That's neat. And then, you know, just as we look at the, you know, it's pretty. We have next one. Kind of a nice print. Isn't that nice? Like a Japanese wood print. And next album. This one has outtakes and alternatives on it. Here we have, here's home demos of it. I'm sure people have shown this. It's been out there a while, but I haven't, so dang it, you're going to watch it. There you go. And this one has more home demos. And then it comes with a Blu-ray. So, basic DVD of a live concert on there. Really, I was really excited to see this, especially with it being on clearance. That even excited me even more. You know, what's interesting on the Crane Wife, probably like a prog rock or something, just the story. This was a Japanese folk tale. And so it goes that a man was out there and saw a crane, and the crane had an arrow in it. So he took pity on the crane and pulled the arrow out. Well, he went home, and there's something at the door. He went to the door, and there's a beautiful woman there. Well, supposedly it was the crane. So he invited her in, and I don't know, they got married or they're living together. But she, you know, they didn't have any money, but she could make beautiful clothing. But she told her husband, listen, I will make this beautiful clothing that we can sell, but you can never open the door and watch me work. All right, that's fine. And so she began to make this clothing, and they began to sell it. They became richer and richer, but the husband became greedy. Yes, suddenly, I need more, I want more, and began to push his wife to make more clothes. You know, isn't that just like the man? Hey, I need more, give me more, give me more. Well, he did. Then one day, he opened up the door and saw her there plucking feathers from herself that she was using to make the silk for the clothing. Upon seeing this, she turned into a crane and flew away. And there we go. That is the Japanese tale of the Crane's Wife. You're very welcome. All right. So, we blew 10 minutes on 2 box sets. So, shall we get into something? We'll move along now. First, I'll show you classical. I love classical music, but I never show it. And I haven't been buying it, so I've started to look for more classical. This is Groth, and this is the Grand Canyon Suite. This was made in 1931. What was interesting is Groff, what was his first name? Ferdy Groff. He was doing a lot of jazz, writing jazz music. So they'd come out with a jazz standard. He would rewrite it for the big band that he was working with, and he was working with Paul Whitman's jazz band. So he would rewrite it. Well, he was given the chance to compose some music. He had been to the Grand Canyon once before as a child, and so he began to write it. And so he had 3 songs on there. And the first, Sunrise, which, you know, it's about the sunrise over the Grand Canyon, but actually was coming over the Pacific Ocean. Painted Desert, On the Trail, Sunset, and Cloudburst. My father played this album growing up, and, you know, it's just one we heard a lot. It was really kind of neat music. And it became famous, actually, Groff was set for life because Philip Morris took On the Trail, the song On the Trail, and used that as part of the Philip Morris Radio Hour. And so thus Groff began to get all kinds of money, was able to retire very nicely in California because of the Grand Canyon Suite. You know, if you're not sure if you like classical or not, if you find this, I think you would like it. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful album. It's not, you know, pompous or anything or over the top. Just great music, especially kind of Americana. You really get to feel the Old West. All right, let's look at a few other things. We recently bought Grace Jones' Slave to the Rhythm. Look at that. Scary. Yes. Grace Jones, she could be really scary, you know? She made great music. Really neat music. And there we go. That's the label on there. This is an autobiography, kinda. You know, it was made by Trevor Horn. Trevor Horn produced this, and the songs are more of an autobiography of Grace Jones. Here's a nice listen. Is it my favorite Grace Jones? No. To some, it's one of the best out there. But still, really nice album. I love Grace Jones, so guess what? I had to have it anyway. And now I do. Graham Parker's Howlin' Wind. You'd say, well, Steve, why wouldn't you have this one already? I thought I did, but I can't find it, so I mustn't. I mustn't have it. Sounds very, I don't know, formal. All right, so Graham Parker, he was one of the angry young men of pub rock, you could say, back in the mid-70s. There was Elvis Costello, Joe Jackson, and Graham Parker, the 3 angry young men that came out of Britain. This is his first album, and some will say his very best album, in which, you know, he made, again, there is some anger in the songs, but it's really good stuff. If you don't know Graham Parker, I would suggest anything from the 70s. When he got into the 80s, things began to get a little more confusing. He began going all over, which a lot of artists do. Let's find ourselves. You know, this didn't sell, let's try this. Or they hear new trends. It didn't always work out. And so, you know, Elvis Costello became huge. Joe Jackson became huge. Graham Parker, not so much so. But Howlin' Wind is a great listen to, and you know, it's inexpensive. You can find the 70s Graham Parker stuff really inexpensively out there, $5 or so. Worth looking at. The Wonder Stuff. Let's talk blind buy. All right, let's do it. This was one of my blind buys. Polydor. Okay, no big deal. This is called the 8-Legged Groove Machine. This is a British alternative band. They formed in '86. This is their singles from '86 to '89. It's a fun listen. It's really neat music. I didn't know anything about it. I just saw it and I go, oh, what the heck? Let's buy it. Look at that. There's some policemen on the cover, I guess. And it was good. It was a good alternative. It's fast, kind of hard rocking stuff. I really enjoyed it. Again, it was just, you know, 3 years of their singles. They did make some more albums after that, but never became big. You know, in the States, I'd never heard of this group, but now I have. I bought this. Okay, Sonny Terry and his Mouth Heart. And this is on Riverside. Let me put, oh man, I'm putting my fingerprints on there. Okay, Sonny Terry at Riverside. So Sonny Terry, a little quick story on him. He was born in 1911. By age 16, he'd had a couple accidents and he had gone blind. Well, he knew, what am I going to do? And he said, I'm going to become a blues player. So he was living in North Carolina, and he moved to Durham, North Carolina, and began playing. Well, he met up with Fuller. Blind Lemon Fuller. Oh, I hope I'm saying that wrong. Right. So we got two blind guys there in Durham playing music. Well, eventually Fuller's manager, gosh, I'm pretty sure it was Fuller. Sorry, I digress. I could edit that, but I'm not. All right. Manager hooked him up with someone that could see to help him around, and the person was Sonny McGee. As Sonny Terry and Sonny McGee really got going in the 40s when the other one, Blind Lemon Fuller, he passed away. So these two got together and began putting music together. And they've done a lot of folk music, became very famous. There was blues, but their blues is more folk-oriented. What made this album, this is from 1953, this is a 62 pressing though, is this was one of the few albums that he did without Willie McGee on guitar, and this was the guitarist was Alex Stewart. So it gives kind of a different sound to it when you listen, because it doesn't have Willie McGee's signature guitar playing. But it's really good folk blues. Sonny Terry is a great harmonica player, absolutely one of the best out there. He played for many, many people. When he passed away, he was working with Johnny Winters. Johnny Winters had reinvigorated Muddy Waters' career, and he was working to help Sonny Terry, but Sonny Terry passed away. By that time, him and Brownie McGee had broken up. Bitter, bitter divorce between the two. I mean, they've been touring for decades. Couldn't stand each other anymore. So, neat listen. Regretfully, this has a scratch right through it, and so it goes click, click, click. Not quite to the beat. Here was another interesting find, and I have a friend and he had some stuff, so he offered it to me. This is the Ainsley Dunbar Retaliation, and I have this is volume 6, volume 4. He only made 3 albums under this. These are French pressings, and we'll pull that out. So it's a French pressing, BYG Records on here. These are made in the early 70s. So what's interesting about the Ainsley Dunbar, he applied, he was born in 46. He was for a tryout for the Jimi Hendrix Experience, but Jimi Hendrix wound up hiring Mitch Mitchell instead. So he went to work for John's Mayall's Blues Breakers and Jeff Beck. And so he named this, he got fired from John Mayall fired him. So he made his own group, the Ainsley Dunbar Retaliation. And the retaliation was solely because I'm going to show you John Mayall. And so that's why he called it Retaliation. He did 3 albums underneath this group. This guy, he actually got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2017 with Journey. But he has played for, he's played for Niles Lofgren, Zappa, Eric Burden, who else here? Jefferson Starship, Lou Reed, David Bowie, Whitesnake, Sammy Hagar. So, I mean, this guy's been a journeyman drummer. He's been everywhere. So this was kind of neat. These were just, again, 2 French pressings that I found. Really great blues. I mean, it's blues. One's a softer blues, one's a harder blues. Volume 4 and Volume 6. So, fun find, never would have seen it. All right, we have some jazz, and then we're all done here. This is Jazz Goes to College, the Dave Brubeck. This was originally done in 1953. This is from 62, and this is a classic. Take 5s, the all-time great, Dave Brubeck classic. This one is too, and this was a reissue. Again, this is I believe, 62 reissue, only has the 2i. What makes this one really famous is the first song, Balcony Rock, and it's around 9 minutes. And Paul Desmond, the clarinetist, it's probably the greatest solos he's ever done. And he just takes off in one direction, and he's just kind of jamming away, and then he goes in another direction, and then another direction. And Brubeck jumps in on the piano, and starts going. I mean, it is a beautiful, I mean, the soloing is absolutely phenomenal. And so if you ever want, if you're looking for a second Dave Brubeck album, or if you don't have this, Jazz Goes to College from '53 is really an essential of Dave Brubeck. And I'm going to tell you, you won't be disappointed. It is absolutely some incredibly great soloing going on here. He does, they go, Jazz goes to junior college. Then he goes to these other colleges. Dave Brubeck really wasn't the best at coming up with titles, or his company wasn't. Bought this, The Best of Basie, and this is from his Roulette years. And well, look at that, it's on Roulette Records. How about that? Just kind of the greatest hits of the stuff from the Roulette years. I love Count Basie. It's swing, it really swings well. Great album. Not much more to say. 1962. Ahmad Jamal. All right, so this was made in 1968. He has his own piano style. And in fact, Miles Davis told Red Garland, he goes, I want you to play like Ahmad Jamal. That's how his style was kind of different than everyone else's on here. And so this album was from '68, but he redid it because one of his biggest hits was Pornicana, I guess. This is on Impulse. We have it's a gatefold. There we go. Isn't it funny? I got to peek over. Did they see it? Could you see it? And the label, it's Impulse label. James Griffith. I'm doing pretty good there on labels, aren't I? Great album. Really nice piano playing. I liked it a lot. Some more beautiful music. He was done with his trio. In the 50s, he had a trio, but that's why I don't do. There we go. He just came up with this kind of a revisit there. So in 1968, Herbie Hancock. He's got this one. This is 1965, and Manchild is what it's called. He was into more, this was a funk one. Really good listen. Sometimes some of those albums from the 70s of Hancock were kind of hard to listen to. This one was not. Really good jazz funk on there. Totally enjoyed it. And the other one is Milt Jackson and Chris Whitley at First Pressing Goodness, I believe it's channel. He was showing these last week, and I was playing them at the same time. It's like, look at that. You got to do a couple things at once. I'm listening to music, I'm watching the videos. There we go. Great album. Really liked it. Jazz funk. I thought it was one of his better 70s albums. And then Milt Jackson, one of the great vibe players, best known for being with the Modern Jazz Quartet. This was a '75 album he did with Herbie Hancock, Freddie Hubbard. And again, really nice. It was beautiful music. I'm not a huge vibe player. Milt Jackson, actually, he started with the guitar, then he went to the piano, and eventually settled on the vibes. There's only 2 other vibe players out there, so when he started, he made it 3, and he became the most famous vibe player of all. You hear his stuff all over, so great album. Well, there we go. That's what I have this week to show you. When I bought this Nick Drake, after I bought that at the record store the other day, well, the floodgates open up. After I buy one, I go, well, I know that costs a lot, but let's just see what else you have. So I have some more stuff and from some other buys, trying to get through it all. So next week we'll do another one on there. Thank you for tuning in. 159 subscribers. Thank you. When I hit 200, we'll do a contest. I've never done a contest. I'm going to do that. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be epic. I'm telling you. But I got to get 200 subscribers, so I still need 41 more. Average 5 a week. What's that? 4, 8 weeks, 2 months. In 2 months, it could happen here. Keep the average going. So, thanks for tuning in on another wonderful Sunday. It's really cold in Michigan. It's like 50 degrees. Where the hell did summer go? What? I mean, summer's over. Temperature drop. Here comes snow. What are you going to do? Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. And Kat says, bye. Sorry, Kat.